So hey guys, how's it going on? In the previous video we have set up commands for Friday, that is open Google, open YouTube, search for some terms on Google, and then opening Firebase account, any of the account we give it, and like that. Now that episode was my favorite till now, and with this method, that is open any default Firebase account, is the best part of the previous episode. I hope you have watched it, and I have already given you a homework in there, that is give a search functionality for YouTube also. It is very much similar to this Google one, and I hope you have already done that. Just let me know in the comments that if you have done it or not. Okay, fine. Now in this video what we are going to do is we are going to set up weather first of all, that how we are going to get weather all around, and how are we going to get a statement. Like if I ask Friday what's the weather, it should give me all the weather in a statement and speak it out. Similarly, if I'm gonna say show me the full weather report, it is gonna show me that. Okay, so that stuff we are going to do, and after that we will also set up some important stuff. I will talk about that in a few minutes. Why make it after a few minutes? Let me just tell it. So we are also going to do like in my first episode of this series, I showed you, right, that if I say open my Instagram profile, it takes us to the Instagram profile, and if I say open my GitHub profile, it takes us to the GitHub profile, and that data has to be stored somewhere, and that is what we are going to do in this episode. That will be the main focus, but we will start with the weather because I know it would be amazing. Okay, so first of all, let's set up weather, and here I will write weather setup, and I'll paste something here. Now this is something from one of my video. What is that video? Let me show that to you. Give me a second. Okay, now let me show that video I'm talking about here. If you go here like videos, you will find this video, weather app tutorial. I will also pin it up in the info tab. You can get this video right from there. Just watch it. It is very easy. Okay, I think I do have a source code for this in the description. Yeah, I do have the source code. You can just go to the source code, and if you don't want to waste your 1 hour, just go to the source code and see how I'm going to do that. So from this video I'm just simply copying some code, and that is what I am doing here. Let me show that. So that is what I have pasted here. Okay, so first of all we got an element. What is that element? Dot temp. So we have to create an element called temp in HTML. So let me start with HTML so that all the things are understandable very easily. So here I am in HTML, and here let me just uncomment this. Okay, I created a div called machine. Till here this is the machine closing div, and here in this machine we have a div called temp. In here we have all the temperature things we need. So first we have location, then we have country name, then we have weather temperature, weather description, weather icon, like images related to the weather. If it's rainy, it will show you a rainy icon like that, and O temperature, I don't know, O temperature, okay, it may be something here. Okay, it's maximum temperature or minimum temperature, O temperature, that is something for like, and this is a feel like temperature, min T maximum temperature, and that is the stuff. Now we actually need to push the data into this div, and how we are going to do that? We are going to do that from JavaScript. So first of all, I have made that function here, and I selected this element temp, and I selected all the elements within this temp, simply all the elements, and now I can select each of the elements with an index, because all the elements are stored within this variable, and I can use like this weather element, because first index, I mean at index 0 we have this first location P, and in the first index 1 we have this country, in index 2 we have weather temperature, then weather description, like that. Okay, now that is what we have done here, and what we are going to do is we are using Ajax to get the response from this. Okay, let URL, this is the URL. You can copy the source code. I have my API ID. If you want to use, you can use, but it is better if you create your own. Okay, this is my API ID. You can also use this. And in this weather function, we are passing in a location. So because this is gonna be completely a web app, so everything will be according to the user, nothing is hard coded, right? So we have the location given by the user here, and that location will be applied here. So we are creating a XML HTTP request here. Then we are saying xhr.open get URL, this URL, which is this URL, this variable right up here, okay, which is true. Now here we say on load, when the xhr is load, and if status is equal to 200, get the data json.parse this dot response text. Now we got the data, and the data is stored into a variable called data itself. And then we are simply saying whether const first element, that is this p location, is dot text content is equal to, I use template literals because I want to add like this, first location and then add the data I want, then country and then add the data we are getting. Okay, like that. Fine. Okay, let me just close this pop-up. Okay, fine. Okay, yes, and after this what we are going to do is we are going to just do that same thing for all the elements we are taking there, and you can just copy this from the source code I've given here and make some small changes. Okay, and fine. Now here we need to have a function KTC, because see, this data will come in Fahrenheit, I guess, sorry, it will come in Kelvin, so we have to convert it into Celsius. So we have this function, just a simple formula application, and we are good to go. So this is also explained in the video I just showed you in my channel, so just watch it. Okay, fine. Now this is the complete setup. Now let's see what happens. Currently nothing will happen. If I save this index.html, you will get some space here because no data is there, so no data will come currently. And now nothing is default, no data is added, this weather function is not called yet. So what I'm going to do is calling the weather function, and here I will simply call that weather with let's say my location in strings. Okay, fine. Now if I save this, just see what happens. You are getting all the data required. You're also getting an icon. You can see if I make the background black, then you will be able to see everything fine. If I make the body color, let's say dark blue, then you will be, okay, not color, it's background. If I make this blue, you should see this image, right? Like this, we have images for everything. Actually our whole page will be black, so it will be perfectly visible when we are going to actually style the complete CSS part. So this will be visible. But now I'm removing this piece of code. Fine, right? This much is fine. And now we actually need to set up that user information part. And how are we going to do that? So guys, now let's work with that user information part. So first of all, let's cover the HTML part, then we will move on to JavaScript. Okay, so first of all, let's create a div with a class Jarvis setup. Here will be the information we will pass. Okay, Jarvis setup, and I'm also adding another class so that it would be easy for me to style multiple elements if I want a same styling for different elements. Okay, I'm just saying in middle, because I want this element to be completely in middle, so that is the reason I'm adding it this way. This is the shortcut, you can also use it. Okay, and here we want a simple form like structure. Okay, so first of all, I'm going to add a label with no for, and the label will be simply your name. And after this, just copy this because we want this multiple times. Your name, after this we have your bio, then your location, and then I think Instagram profile, Twitter, GitHub. And after this we just simply have a button with which I will add after a BR tag, and here I will simply add a button. In here I will simply say submit, and here let's give it an ID for further on styling. Let's say sub button, short form for submit button, right? And after these labels we want to add some input elements. Okay, so let's add an input text, that is it. Then we want a br, simple. Copy this input text and then paste it here, then here. This is for I think Instagram profile, and then here we have it the same thing for some other thing, then Twitter, and then GitHub, I guess. Now this should be fine. If I save, everything should be good. And now here we have these elements on the right side in the browser screen. You can just simply see it. And now let's change this name, your bio, and after that we have your location, and after location we have, I think, Instagram profile. After that GitHub profile, I guess. So let me copy this profile, and here simply I will say GitHub profile, and here Twitter profile. I think I think I should keep this element after here, Control X and Control V, fine, and remove one BR from the bottom. And now this is completely done. This form part is done. Now actually we need to go with the JavaScript part. So guys, now let's move on to the JavaScript part. So here let's say speech recognition setup, not here. Let me just remove this Vishakhapatnam for now. Let me remove this weather function, and here I will simply say Jarvis setup. Okay. And first of all guys, let me tell you that we are going to use browser local storage to save the data by the user. And what is this local storage? Let me tell you in some simple words. Local storage, you can find it in any website. Let me show it for YouTube itself. Okay, youtube.com. Okay, let me just show that to you up here in YouTube. So if I press F12 so that this is the shortcut to open a console, and in this console I can show you some part. If I go to this application part in the console right up here, if I show you this one, if I click on it, you can go to the storage, and within the storage you can see some storage information. Then below here you will see local storage and session storage. Now here you will save some data. YouTube is saving this particular data in local storage. It uses this for login information and other part, and this is the session storage. Now what is session storage, what is local storage? Let us make a small discussion over it. So local storage is a kind of storage which is saved always. Even if you close the tab, even if you close the browser, local storage is always right there. Okay, like if I have an example, I have an example for you, let me show that an example. Okay, so what is that example is, let me just write it in here so that you could just see. Not here in the JavaScript file. Just give me a second guys, so that I could explain everything better than the best. Okay, let's see here. So for example, I have a web page. Okay, let's say I have a web page, and within this web page I have user logged in, and this logged in information, logged in info, has to be stored in the local storage. And does it happen that when I close the browser and when I open the browser again, my logged in information goes out? No, right? I'm still logged in, and that part is done using local storage. Like even if I close the browser, this data is still there. But what is session storage? It just clears out. It's just a data for some time till I close the browser. As I close the browser, this thing just vanishes. The data is being cleared from session storage. But whereas local storage is saved. So that is what we are going to use now. Okay, so let us go up again. And here we have Jarvis setup, and here I will do one thing. In this local storage for this Friday, what I will do is I will create something and push data into that variable within the local storage. For that we need to do some coding, right? we need to add some code here. So what is that? Let's get started. So first of all, I will say an if condition. If I say local storage dot get item Jarvis setup, I will simply name it Jarvis setup later on, okay, or you can name it anything, it's your choice. Jarvis setup, if that particular thing not equals to null, like it has some value, like see, if the user is have visited this Friday for the first time, that will be empty, right? There will be no information. Then I am just saying that if it has no information, show that information tab so that he could add his information. But if there is information, don't show this again. So that is the reason that information thing don't comes again and again, even if you open this web page which I have made again and again, right? Now I think you got it. Now here I am simply saying whether json.parse, not like this. Now here we just need a function. We are just simply adding calling this weather function so that it just gets all the information from our location which we have previously given in this data, right? So that part we will do in some time after setting this up, because nothing else is here, just that is the part we are going to do. Now let's do Jarvis information setup. And here what are we going to do? So first of all, let's create a variable through which we are selecting this index HTML form Jarvis setup, okay? So here I will simply say const setup is equal to document dot query selector, and this is a class, so I'm simply saying Jarvis setup, okay? And now we have a variable, and now after creating this variable, we initially what we have to do is we will say setup.display, not simply display, style.display, because we are styling it, okay, style.display is equal to none. Initially it is none, okay? After this, what we are going to do, we are saying after this line of code, we are saying if local storage dot get item is equal to null, I mean if it is null, no data is there. I'm just copying this and pasting it in here. Here it was if not equals to null, if there is some data, then call this function. If there is no data, call this one, okay? That is what we have to do, right? Now within this if condition, we are simply saying setup dot style dot display is equal to flex, because I'm going to style it using flex, CSS flex, and setup dot query selector, the button within the setup, okay, the button within the setup dot add event listener, add a click function to it. Else don't add that click function, but if the data is not there, on click add a function to it. That is the function I'm going to create in a few seconds. I will name it user info, right? I will name it user info, that would be fine and good to go. Now let us create that user info function, and here I'm going to create that user info function. Let's say function user info, let's say a function user info, and here let's say we get the setup info. We are getting all the values the user submits within here, within this form here, okay? That value first of all we have to get, and for that we are going to use some DOM properties in JavaScript. So first of all, let's create a object variable. So setup information is equal to an object. Within the object we have name is equal to, not equal to, we have to use this symbol dot dot, I don't know what we call it, I think semicolon, I guess, but I'm not sure about that. Guys, if you know, just tell me in the comment section so that I would also know about that what we call that dot symbol. Okay, setup dot query selector. After this, what we have to do, setup dot query selector all, query selector all elements. We are selecting each of the inputs right in there, all inputs, and from there we are selecting the first input. Okay, and we are getting its value. This is what we have to do for multiple times to get all the data. So I am just copying it. After this, I will put a comma and then go to the next line. We want the bio, and bio is again equal to the same thing, but this time the index will change to 1. Okay, fine. And after this, let's get the location part. Again, paste. And then we have our Instagram. And after this we have Instagramma. It became Instagramma. Okay. And after this we have Twitter and GitHub, right? So let me simply put for Twitter, and then we have GitHub, right? Okay, fine. Now here we just need to make this one 2, and the next one 3, and then the next one 4, and then this last one as 5, because we have a total of 6 input elements, right? And indexes start from 0 in, so it's 0 1 2 3 4 5, a total of 6. Fine. Now we have this variable. So now whenever I click on the submit button, we do have there user info is not defined. He's saying user info is not defined. Okay, here it should be I. Now that error should go, and fine. Okay, now here I should have some buttons and other stuff. As I made its display flex, I need to change that. For now, we will, when we later on style it, we will make it flex. Okay, for now let me just make it block so that it is in its default view, because we have not added any style now. So now when I add the data and click on submit, what is going to happen is we will get all this data and save it into the local storage. Okay, I will show you with proof, just don't worry, because I haven't added this data to local storage yet. We have to add it. So now let's create a testing array. Now why are we creating this testing array? Okay, give me a second. Okay, let's create a test arr variable, which is an array. Now why are we creating this array? So when the user is going to fill this form, if all the data is empty, if any of the data is empty, this submit button will not work, and what will happen is it will give us peek out. Okay, our Friday or Jarvis will say that fill the complete information. That is why we are going to use this test array, and I am going to push each of the elements in here. Okay, so here I am going to do setup dot query selector all, select all the inputs which we did previously, select all the inputs, and dot for each input, for each of the input, what you need to do is get the element, and I am using arrow property, arrow function here, and for each test array, not test, it's test array dot push each of the element, dot value. So this is what we actually need to push here. Okay, so now this data is actually pushed, and we are pushing all the test array. Now we can use some if conditions to do the work I just explained you right now. So here we are saying if this test array includes an empty array, I mean empty string, that if there is no information it will show you an empty string, right? So that is what it is, empty string. Now if it has an empty string, either one of them is empty string, read out. Okay, I'm simply saying read out what? You have to read out sir, enter your complete information, or anything of your choice. I simply say sir, enter your complete information. So guys, what if the user is a girl or a woman? we have to use ma'am, right? So you can do that on your own. You can also take here information, gender, male or female, and change all these using template literals, like define a variable. When the user adds this information, define a variable and take that value into that variable and use template literals here and add them within those curly braces. Okay, and this will use whatever she has selected or he has selected, the user I am talking about. Okay, fine. And after this, what we are going to do is we are saying else, and in this else function we are simply saying local storage dot clear. If there is some data initially, previously, if there is some data, clear that, because sometimes it may happen that you have entered some wrong data and made submit. So later on you can also change that data. So for that, first of all, we have to clear all that old data, and then we have to set an item. So how are we going to do that? Local storage dot set item. So guys, I will add some Google Docs. I have them, I think it's from MDN. I will link those docs in the description below about local storage. You can just have a read out. So local storage is very important if you are working on real-time projects or any projects. It is very important. Almost all the websites use local storage, not static. Some web apps and other stuff definitely use local storage. So you need to master local storage. Okay, you can use this in React anywhere. That is super awesome. So local storage dot set item, we have to set up something called Jarvis setup. Okay, Jarvis setup, and within this we are adding the data JSON dot stringify setup info. Now this object will be added as a string. Okay, will be added as a string or array, you can say. I will show you how it will get added. Just give me a few minutes. And when I click on submit, again make this setup dot style dot display to none. I mean hide it. So when we are making it none, simply hide it. And after this, we are just again logging out that, calling that weather function so that the data refreshes and gives us the accurate data after, if we are changing the location or something. So in this weather function, I'm simply getting the JSON dot parse. We will get parse. We have to parse some data we are getting from the local storage. And what we have to parse? Local storage dot get item Jarvis setup. Not like this. We have to add that within strings. Okay, Jarvis setup. Now it is fine. So here from this, I want to get the location, and I want to parse the location into here, and now this function is complete. Okay, and this is what we need to do. Now this function is actually complete, so that I could show you the stuff. Now there is no information, so this form is coming, but when there is some information, it will not come. Let me show you with proof. So just keep on watching this browser window. Okay, let me make the console a bit bigger. Okay, fine. I'm going to this application tab and the local storage. Okay, now here we have some data. Now just see here this key tag, the key column and value column. I'm adding some data here. Let me say Ashish Nallana. In bio, I am saying I am a web dev. Location Visakha Patnam, and Instagram profile the enthusiastic dev, and here Twitter profile it's Ashish Nallana, and same thing with GitHub. I do have the same name in most of my accounts, and if I click on submit, just see what will happen. Let me make this also a bit bigger. So now when I click on submit, just see what will happen here. Now did you saw this? When I clicked on submit, this thing went away. What happened with this? This thing simply went away, and here we have Jarvis setup, within which we have this data. Name Ashish Nallana, bio this, you can see that perfectly here. Bio, I am a web dev, GitHub Ashish Nallana, Instagram the enthusiastic dev, location Vishakhapatnam, name this, and whatever we entered right here. Now guys, isn't that cool? Cool, right? And see, here is some error. That is the reason our weather function doesn't work. Unexpected taken you in JSON parse, some syntax error here. Okay, I think we have to have another bracket here. No, just give me a second, guys. No, it is fine, but it is showing some error. Okay, let me just refresh, and that we will fix in a few minutes because I need to see where that error is coming. We'll fix it automatically. We will clear that while coding some other stuff. Okay, just remember one thing: whenever you get bugs, list them down on some notepad or somewhere and keep it in front of you and code the next part. If you are coding that next part, suddenly that bug where you made a mistake will come into your mind and you will automatically fix it. But if you forget that I had a bug, it will just stay on right there and you will just forget to code it. So just make a notepad and keep it on your screen, or write it on a notebook and keep it beside you. So now here, if you see, I'm refreshing, but that local storage part is not coming. But when I do local storage dot clear, now if I refresh, you see that data comes up. Again, I'm just adding some random data here, not any in location. I have to enter some data, and here I'm simply adding some random data, and now you see again that thing is gone, and now that data will not come again. Fine, right? So guys, now what we have to do is we actually need done most of the part. Now we can actually create our open my Instagram profile, open this profile part. We can actually work on that. And to work on that, actually I need to give correct information, else it will show error, right? So again, I am doing local storage dot clear here and clearing the data, and now it is fine. Now in the name, I'm adding Ashish Nallana, bio to be empty, and in location I will simply add Visakha, Patnam or maybe London. It's okay. It's okay to have that. Here I have the enthusiastic, dev, and here I have Ashish Nallana, and the same thing up here, and if I submit it, it is good to go. Actually, we are good to go. Let me make it small, make this guy small, and let's code again. I think the console has been hidden. Okay, now I can have it here. And fine. Okay, so let's create commands to get this data. Currently I am just simply removing this function from here because it is coming right from there, I guess. Okay, I am removing this function. Okay, I'm saving the page and we are fine now. So what I'm going to do now is I will give some commands like open my Instagram profile. I will do it for GitHub, and you can similarly do it for Twitter and other stuff. Okay, as you want. You can add anything as you want. So I'm just going to do this stuff which I just talked for GitHub. So let me go here, and after this I will add that part. I will add GitHub commands, and here I will code for that. Okay, so I am adding an if condition. I'm saying if transcript dot includes open GitHub, then simply, okay, some error, I had to add those curly braces here. Open GitHub, then just simply read out opening GitHub sir, and then simply do window.open github.com. So I need to get the URL. Copy this, copy all of this and paste it here. Okay, similarly, if transcript includes open my GitHub profile, okay, if it has open my GitHub profile, then opening your GitHub profile should be the speak out. Opening your GitHub profile, sir. And then we have window.opengithub.com, and now here we need to use template literals, guys, and I'm using backticks for that, and I'm pasting this stuff. Now here actually we're gonna do and operator. We're gonna use something like this, and here what we are going to do is we will simply do we have to do this again and again, right? Let me tell you a shortcut. Again we have to do the same thing, json.parse local storage.get item .instagram, yeah, .github, like that. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to store that within a variable, let's say user data or something, and from that user data variable I will access that information, because we have to do the same thing for what? We have to do the same thing for Instagram, for GitHub, for this, for that, and that is the reason I'm doing this. So in the top, let me just say in on result and top of here, let me just simply say let user data be equal to local storage dot get item. So local storage dot get item, and in this get item I am simply saying get what? Get that Jarvis setup. Okay, get the Jarvis setup, and here we got this element, right? And what we are going to do here we are simply saying json dot parse what we need to parse? User data, right? json dot parse user data dot information, Instagram. Now this should work. github.com slash sorry, not Instagram, it's GitHub, because we are working for GitHub, right? GitHub. So this is for GitHub. So json.parse user data GitHub, this is what we have to do. Okay, now let's test it out. I'm clicking on VR start and I will say open my GitHub profile. Hello. Okay, some error, voice recognition is not being active here, so I need to change some piece of code. I think this is due to Google Chrome. Let's see that in Edge. Okay, let me open Microsoft Edge and let's test it out on Edge. So let me just copy this URL from here and I will paste that same thing on Edge, and we can just simply test it out. Okay, I'm pasting it. Okay guys, just give me a second. Okay, fine, the recording is going on, and now I'm just simply pressing enter, and now you see the data. Now just see what happens when I click on VR start. Let me make everything big, a bit bigger, and let me just add the information because I cleared it even from Edge. So I'm just say we are just doing for GitHub profile, so I'll make all the else things to be null, and I'll simply add my information on GitHub and submit. So guys, now let's test it out that whether it is opening GitHub and GitHub profile or not. So if I click on VR start, open GitHub.
Opening GitHub, sir.
So yeah, now it is opening GitHub for us. And if I again do Good Friday and say open my GitHub profile.
Opening your GitHub profile, sir.
Okay, so guys, do you see there is some error right up here? right? We have an error. So what is it? We have to take a look upon that. So okay, I got the error. So here we have .github inside here. We should not have it in there. We should have it after that, like out of the bracket. Okay, and now if I save it up, and if I again do open my GitHub profile,
Opening your GitHub profile, sir.
and now you see it adds my name, which the information I gave it at the side of this URL, right? And it opens that particular URL up to us. And this is something awesome. And now you can do the same thing for Instagram or any social media accounts you want, for Twitter, for Instagram. And you can also use, for if you have a command what is my name, if you say that, it will respond you by doing something similar. json.parse user data.name you will do, and like that. And you can add multiple data here. That is completely your choice. Okay, now this is it. After this, what we have is we have an error, right? Previously for local storage weather function, and we also need to fix that, right? So I think something similar should have to be done here. And yeah, now it is perfectly all right. We have to take this dot location from here, and we have to place it after a bracket, and now I guess it should work perfectly fine. And if I just clear the local storage once here, so local storage dot clear, and then if I refresh, you see we get the information tab again. And now let me just enter some random information everywhere, and in location I will give some random location, so let's say London. And now if I hit submit, there the weather should come. Let's see what happens. And yeah, the weather information is right there. Previously it was not coming because we had an error right here. Yes, so now we have fixed that. So in this video we have covered what? We have made this weather functionality using Ajax and other stuff, and then we have also given it some setup, like where we will store the information, where we will do the other stuff. So after, in the next video, what we are going to do is we will give commands. If I say what are your commands, then it will give you a list of commands. So that part is gonna include HTML and CSS a lot. So we will design the complete HTML and CSS in the next part. And what else we will do is we will say that what are your commands. It will give you a list of commands that what it can follow. You can add that randomly. Just think about it, that how can we do it. And if you have already done it before the next video comes, awesome guys, you are really awesome. But if not, don't worry, you're still in learning stage and we are going to build it. No worries about that. And that is it for this video guys. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you made all these. If you got any errors, just let me know in the comments section and I will help you right out there. So that was it for this video. From the next video we will making it amazing, looking perfectly fine. So until then, bye guys.